The kingdom of Viridian was known for its lush meadows and golden wheat fields. Crystal rivers sparkled under the warm sun. People smiled. Children laughed. King Dorian was kind and just. He ruled with wisdom and love. He cared deeply for his people. King Dorian lived in a grand castle overlooking the kingdom. The castle walls were made of polished stone. Banners of velvet and gold hung from the ramparts. But King Dorian's heart was not swayed by riches. He valued his people above all treasures. He often walked among them. He listened to their joys and sorrows. King Dorian believed in fairness. He made sure everyone had enough. He opened his granaries to those in need. He organized festivals to celebrate harvests. He wanted everyone to share in the kingdom's prosperity. His kindness made him the most loved ruler Viridian had ever known. The people of Viridian adored their king. They knew he always put their needs first. They trusted him completely. His reign was an era of peace and abundance. They wished it would last forever. One year, a terrible drought struck Viridian. The once clear skies turned a hazy gray. The sun, once a source of life, became a scorching orb. It baked the land, leaving it parched and cracked. The once flowing rivers were reduced to trickles. The fish died. The crops withered and died under the relentless sun. The once golden wheat fields turned to dust. The lush meadows became barren wastelands. The animals grew thin and weak. Many died from hunger and thirst. Fear gripped the hearts of the people. The once abundant stores of food began to dwindle. The laughter of children was replaced by the sound of rumbling stomachs. The king, seeing his people suffer, felt a deep pang of sadness. He used all his wealth to buy food from neighboring kingdoms. But it was not enough. Despair settled over Viridian like a heavy cloak. People lost hope. They huddled in their homes, their faces gaunt and pale. The once vibrant kingdom was now a shadow of its former self. King Dorian, despite his best efforts, felt helpless. He had never seen his people suffer so much. He knew he had to find a solution, but what could he do? The drought seemed endless. One day, a lone figure approached the castle. He was an old farmer named Rowan. His clothes were simple, his face weathered by years of working under the sun. He carried a small sack over his shoulder. His eyes, though filled with concern, held a glimmer of hope. Rowan had heard of the king's plight. He had always been a kind man, known for sharing his meager harvest with those less fortunate. He had something special, something he believed could save the kingdom. He had heard tales from his grandfather of magical seeds. Seeds that could grow even in the harshest conditions. The seeds were a family heirloom. They were passed down from generation to generation. Legend had it that these seeds were a gift from the earth goddess herself. They held the promise of life and abundance. Rowan had guarded them carefully all these years. But seeing his beloved kingdom on the brink of ruin, he knew the time had come to use them. He presented himself to the guards, requesting an audience with the king. He explained that he possessed something that could bring back life to the parched lands. He spoke of the magical seeds and their power to flourish even in the most arid conditions. The guards, skeptical but desperate, led him to the king. Section 4. The Miracle of the Golden Seeds. Rowan bowed low before the king. He told him about the legend of the seeds. He explained that they needed to be planted with a pure heart and a prayer for rain. King Dorian, desperate for a solution, listened intently. Hope flickered in his heart. He decided to trust the old farmer. King Dorian, with Rowan by his side, went to the fields. They knelt on the dry, cracked earth. Rowan opened the sack and poured a handful of golden seeds into the king's outstretched hand. The seeds shimmered faintly, radiating a warm, gentle light. They planted the first seed together. As they did, a hush fell over the land. It was as if nature itself was holding its breath. They offered a silent prayer for rain, for the land to heal, for their people to be saved. Then they waited. Within days, something miraculous happened. Tiny green shoots emerged from the earth. They grew at an astonishing rate. The dry, cracked earth seemed to sigh with relief as life returned to it. The shoots reached for the sky, their leaves a vibrant green against the dull brown of the barren land. Section 5. A Kingdom Reborn. News of the miracle spread like wildfire. People flocked to the fields to witness the impossible. Hope, which had seemed lost, began to blossom again in their hearts. The golden seeds, planted with faith and a prayer, had worked their magic. Rains returned to Viridian. The parched land drank deeply, rejuvenated by the life-giving water. The rivers flowed again, teeming with fish. The crops flourished, their golden heads heavy with grain. The trees, once bare, sprouted new leaves, their branches heavy with fruit. Viridian was reborn. The kingdom celebrated. Feasts were held, music filled the air, and laughter echoed through the streets once more. The people finally understood the depth of Rowan's generosity. He had risked his family heirloom, the only thing of value he possessed, to save them all. They showered him with gratitude and praise.
Arik lived in a small village nestled amidst rolling hills. He lived in a tiny cottage with a thatched roof. He was a simple man, known for his kind heart and gentle wisdom. Arik was a healer. He knew the secrets of herbs and plants. He used them to mend the sick and soothe the hurting. Arik never sought riches or fame. He found joy in helping others. He was content with his simple life. He spent his days tending to his garden. He gathered herbs and flowers. He used them to create his healing remedies. The villagers loved Arik. They respected him deeply. They often sought his advice. They listened intently to his stories. They were tales filled with wisdom and kindness. Arik believed in the power of nature. He believed in the goodness of people. He treated everyone with respect. He treated them with compassion, from the poorest farmer to the richest merchant. Arik was a true healer, inside and out. Far away, beyond the hills, stood a grand palace. The king of the land lived there. He was a good and just ruler. He cared deeply for his people. One day, the king fell terribly ill. He grew weaker with each passing day. The palace healers tried everything. They used all their potions and medicines. Nothing seemed to work. The king's condition only worsened. The queen was distraught. She loved her husband dearly. She desperately sought a cure. She sent messengers throughout the kingdom. They carried a message. It was a plea for help. The message said, "The king is ill. Whoever can cure him will be richly rewarded." Days turned into nights. Hope began to dwindle. The queen refused to give up. She prayed for a miracle. She prayed for someone to heal her beloved king. One evening, a weary traveler arrived at Arik's cottage. He had journeyed from the capital city. He carried the king's message. Arik listened intently to the traveler's tale. He heard of the king's illness and the queen's plea. Arik knew he had to help. He packed a bag with herbs and remedies.